Welcome to Cat the Minion YouTube channel. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. This is going to be a Cat's Hit the Deck review, and this is the Thoth deck. Okay, so this isn't, it's like not the original, it's not the original Book of Thoth. It's like a reprint, kind of. So it's got this booklet, which just happens to be 42 pages. And I don't know if they intended it to be the answer to everything, or if it's just a coinky-dink. So it has, you know, little descriptions of what the cards mean. It's not super in-depth, but it's like a little primer. It's got this Merkaba, or is that, no, it's not Merkaba. Sephiroth. I mean, you can crunch it down. It's like a template for the Merkaba anyway, but it's got that. So, it's just cheap paper, staples. So this came in a paperboard box. It was green, it was flimsy, and I threw it out. But because it was green, I've got my green elastic to hold my cards together. So that's there, and this is what the back of the cards look like when you get them. This is a spare card. It's just got a little description of the stuff. And I do want to point out that I avoided getting this deck for at least a year because I don't really approve of Aleister Crowley. I sort of always go back to Ozzy Osbourne's song, Mr. Crowley. And now I can't remember any of the lyrics. But listen to that song, because he's a highly suspect character, and I think he was messing around with stuff that he probably shouldn't have been messing around with, but maybe it was a step towards greater understanding. I feel like he was sort of the catalyst for modern usage of tarot, which perhaps is a good thing. But I like this deck because it has a slightly unusual system, and I like the artwork on it. Artwork by Lady Felicia Harris, or is that right? I have it written down somewhere. Maybe it says on here. Does it say? No. Oh, I think I looked it up online. What does it say? Hang on, I got it written down. Lady Frida Harris. Frida Harris. I was close. It's like there's only room enough in my brain for one Frida, and that's Frida Kahlo, even though it's spelled differently. So Lady Frida Harris. Right, Ordo Templi Orientis, you know, because of all that. But anyway, so I've trimmed my deck. I've gotten rid of this like 4mm border and clipped the corners. So mine is now like this. And when I'm looking at it from the top, it looks like they're gilded, but they're not. So it's a little bit easier to shuffle. I'll shuffle them at the end because I got them in order now. So I'm just going to flip through them and talk about them a little bit. These, whoever I bought these from, I think I might have gotten these on eBay, but wherever they came from, like, reeks of perfume, and I'm really sensitive to that. So even after using these for over a year, like, even this card is like way more smelly, and the book is still smelly. Just like, I don't know what kind of perfume people are using, but I've gotten a few things like dolls and cards that have come from eBay, and it's always like literally the same perfume, and it smells. It's like 4 sticks of incense and a half a bottle of cheap perfume. That's what it smells like. So I still get like wafting every time I use these, but it's not quite as bad. I don't have to like be like, ugh, and take a break. So there's all kinds of little symbols in here. Also notice how this is set up like a cube. I mean, this is supposed to be a square, but you can see there's a flower on it, but this would, the way that it's broken down is set into like a cube. Okay. So let's start with the beginning. And I'm gonna angle this down a little bit more so I don't have to keep holding the cards up. I had them set up a certain way to start with, so I needed to focus up more. It's like the Star Wars version. Star Wars credits version is like trying to get the entire, and that's as far back as that goes. Let me try to pull the tripod up a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's better. I need like a tower for my camera so I can ratchet it up and down one of these days. But right now I have more critical expenses and limited fundage. Okay. I should probably stop doing so many readings like for free on YouTube, but there's a moral obligation for me for some of that. Okay. So we have the Fool. He's got a tiger chewing on his leg instead of a dog, and there's an alligator there too. Or perhaps a crocodile, I'm not sure which. So because this Fool, get a load of this Fool here, because he's very green and has horns on his head, it always makes me think of Taurus, but this is actually Aquarian energy. Uranus energy, rather. It also looks like he's going through a portal. There's some loops here. He's sort of like, he's sort of like mid-flight falling down off the cliff. He's got an octahedron in his hand because it's an air sign, air energy. There's a butterfly. There's little DNA snakes with a winged disc and a pine cone there. So this is the spine, the kundalini rising up to the pineal gland and the 2 lobes of the brain. He's got some fire in his hand. There's grapes and a leaf there. There's some kind of a bluebird and a white bird. There's some kind of cactus flower going on here. There's 2 intertwined figures here that I don't remember seeing before. Like the twins. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. There's a lot of symbols. And this apparently is like a sack or a pyramid that's full of astrological symbols. So, the beginning of the journey. And there's a heart kind of over the heart. So, I'll put the Fool here. Who has a crystal pyramidion on his head as well. Alright. So there we go. Eagle biter. Okay. Oh, I should point out too that there's gray letters behind the black letters, so all of these major arcana say trumps on them, and then you can see on here it has the, I'm not sure what that symbol's supposed to be. Maybe that's supposed to be representative of Uranus. It looks like a Hebrew letter. And then we have this a a triangle within a triangle, which is maybe air, but maybe it means a portal. Okay. So the magician here is called the Magus. Simon Magus. Mercury energy, and then another Hebrew letter. And again, with the snakes in the wing disc. This one has a bird going downwards. It looks like a little airplane. This is like... I was going to say, what is that? A melting piano? It's a scroll, but it looks like a typewriter. Some kind of a thing over here. Some little... This kind of looks like a 1980s cartoon music video. It reminds... It's these huge wings coming off of Mercury sandals. I guess that's a baboon, because that's what my intuition was pouring out of my mouth. Notice there's this network coming off where the feet start. So we have this Mercury figure here representing the Magus. Apparently there's also a connection to Odin. So check that out. Is that 7? No, that's an 8. 8-pointed star. And a sword for air energy, because Mercury can also be air. Gemini. So here the High Priestess is just called the Priestess. Some geometric Fibonacci spiral type sequences going on down here. Some crystal, have an octahedron, and this looks like it's trying to be a cube octahedron down here. I'm not quite sure what that figure is exactly. And there's a dodecahedron and a tetrahedron. Maybe that's supposed to be an icosahedron, but it doesn't really look like one. It's a camel, which I'm not sure what the camel means. So this High Priestess is looking a little bit like Inanna with... Although Inanna has like owl feet, but these look like lion feet here more. Or maybe they're just drawn weird. She's sitting on a little thing. But here, they always look like animal feet to me. And this High Priestess in particular, especially with this net here, it really makes me think of the internet and like a psychic grid. Like she is the radio tower. Very much here. She's got these, I believe, Hathor horns on her head. Again, because she's getting those downloads. Kind of reminds me of, is it Batman and Robin? The one that has Jim Carrey in it? Or is it Batman Forever? Well, whichever one has Jim Carrey in it as the Riddler. He's like sitting in his throne, like with all people's like brain energy like sucking down into him. That's what that kind of is like too. I'm still not sure which movie that is. Anyway. It must have been Batman Forever, because I think that was the one with Val Kilmer as Batman. That can't be right. Maybe, no. Maybe it was the George Clooney one. I can't remember. Drawing a blank. Okay, so the Empress, who almost looks like a mermaid here. There's a shield with a double-headed phoenix here. There's some kind of a goose or flamingo or something. Flowers. Moon symbols. There's little birdies. There's fleur-de-lis here. I think go back to being representative of the Merkaba, but I'm not sure. I feel like I learned that recently. There's some stuff on her shirt too. She's not like the most exciting Empress, but there's like a flow of energy going on there, and there's, you know, definite pink, green, and blue. I feel like she usually does have a shield of some kind. I'm not sure what that's about in terms of the symbolism. So the Emperor, extremely orange and yellow here, Aries energy. Oh, he's got the same shield. Look at that. I did not realize that. Only his is orange. Double Phoenix. The OTP there. The one true pair. Okay, so we got Rams here, Rams here. Got another one down there. It's very orange. He's got the little thingy, the circle with the cross on it. She had hers on her head. The scepter with a ram's head on it. Shirt detailing. Really just doubling down on that whole King of Fire, I mean, Lord of the Fire realms and all that. But, the Emperor. Mars energy. It's like a tiny little fruit fly or something that's annoying the crap out of me and I can't get it. So the Hierophant, again, I don't know what these letters are. These Hebrew letters, I don't know them. So the Hierophant, Taurus energy. Should point out that she was Venus. Get Venus down there. Should I do the High Priestess? Okay, so the High Priestess is typically ruled by the moon, so there's a moon symbol here, but I usually find that to be obnoxious and usually get Piscean energy for her instead, because for some reason in tarot they decided that the moon was going to be ruled by Pisces, and that's stupid. So the moon should be ruled by the moon and the High Priestess should be ruled by Pisces, but sometimes the energy goes with the way that the cards have been set up, so you know, however it comes through. So we have the Hierophant, and this one has the four corners of the zodiac, which is not usually on this card. It's usually on the wheel in the world. We have Taurus and Leo and Scorpio, and Aquarius is a head. So here this Hierophant is a beardy guy with what looks like, I was gonna say, it looks like it's rolled forward like one of those like Scythian caps, but it's just sort of peaked with a shadow in a design on it. There's a pentagram going on here, like a star that goes off the card, and then there's also a very distinct like triangle pyramidal shape here. There's also a goddess here, which I'm not sure if that's Isis or somebody else. She's holding a sickle and a sword, or a moon and a sword. There's a bull here because it's Taurus energy. And what's this, an elephant? Yeah, there's elephants. That's weird. I haven't noticed those before. And some kind of a flower with pentagonal symmetry. There's a snake. There's two snakes here, and then a bird. And there's a little kid in this pentagram in there. There's actually this big pentagram that goes off, or star, and then there's one going down to her, and then there's a little kid in this one in the center. Okay. For me, the Hierophant is usually about psychic downloads more than it is about religion or faith or marriage or union. There's a key here with threefold symmetry, triangular symmetry, but it's the first couple of iterations that would, if you put 4 more circles on here, you'd get the seed of life. Yeah. So we have cosmic knowledge here, downloading, and fractal. So this Lover's card, really not my favorite one, but I mean, it's getting into the duality nature, right? Masculine and feminine, dark and light. There's an eagle and a lion here. So we've got... Are these? I feel like these are both male children, but it could just be really chubby down in the bottom. But there's a Cupid here, and then this angel. Usually the angel in the Lover's card, but it looks more like a puppeteer. But we have... I can't tell if that's... I think those are both male children. But we have a masculine, purportedly a masculine and a feminine here in a union. And I don't know if this is supposed to be their inner child or what those are supposed to represent. This one's got a club, that one's got flowers. We have this cosmic serpent here with an egg, which I've seen. This cosmic egg with a serpent around it appears in the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. So it's clearly a well-known symbol. What are these? Some kind of spikes coming up, but there's any of this blind Cupid here. This is either really tucked or they're both female. Sort of gender non-specific figures, but I finally got that little tiny thing. And there's wings on the egg too. So this is the Lovers in this deck, Gemini energy. This can also be a choice, and it can also be healing, but this... I don't know why this makes me think of Yoda, but maybe because the hands look like his ears. It's kind of an unusual coloring for the Lovers. It looks like washed out. Okay, so Cancer energy, the Chariot. See, here we don't have 2, but we have 4 figures, and it looks... Ooh, I just realized something. These are the 4 points of the zodiac, but the 4 canopic jars. This is supposed to be a lion, I think, but it looks a little bit more like a baboon, but it's got cow feet. And this one over here has the bull head, but it's got lion feet. And this one looks like it has human feet, but it has this lion body with a bird head. And then this one has like bird feet and a human head. So it's like all of these ones are switched with each other, and these ones are switched with each other. And it makes me think of how like the yin yang, like every feminine has a spot of masculine in it, every masculine has a spot of the feminine in it. But we need all of them together, their light side and their dark side, the 4 corners of the compass, to be able to navigate. Just like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. But anyway, so each, like the masculine and the feminine in this Chariot are a duality. And then we have this figure in the Chariot that's usually there. And then there's this spinning thing. And it's like there's bands painted on a wheel, but when the wheel is spun, this other pattern emerges. And there was some video I saw relating to that, but I can't remember what it is exactly. So we have this is in motion, it's spinning. And unusual, this figure is entirely in armor, you can't really see any of it, and there's a little crab on the top of the head. This Chariot seems to have a canopy as well. Slightly different than usual, but really interesting. So, in this card, the 8 is justice, and the 11 is strength. Sometimes they're switched. But this one, it's called adjustment, Libra energy. And for me, that carries a different connotation. right? It's not just justice, it's something is being moved and shifted intentionally. So we have these balances on chains. There's an octahedron here. Libra energy is air, although it's ruled by Venus. These look like sunflowers. And then these spheres here. Wearing a mask with eyes closed. It feels very rigid, but those spheres give this idea of things curving, that things could be spinning. So there's an A here, and then this overturned U shape, but I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I think it's supposed to be Alpha and Omega. So Hermit Virgo energy. I really like this Hermit. Again, it's just like very fractal kind of energy. And again, oh, there's that serpent with the egg again. Kind of weird bent scepter. It looks like the light fixture on an anglerfish. So we have Cerberus down here. Good dog. And sort of indicates how deep this hermit is going. Even the hermit's face is sort of obscured, and the hair is looking kind of like octopus-like. Those are the lantern with the sun in it. And there's this like wheat moving around. It's very swirly, but like in contradiction to the rigid, to the like glass shard of the light. There's a lot of energy and movement going on in here, but it's like contained. But it's very deep. This hermit's going real deep. Okay, so the wheel here is called Fortune, right? The Wheel of Fortune. And here it's just called Fortune. So we have Jupiter energy, ruled by Sagittarius. Again, these colors are weird. There's a lot of color in this deck, but card for card, the palette seems sort of limited. But if you like threw them all out on the table, you'd have plenty of color. So here we have the wheel. There's definitely a baboon there. There's a crocodile snake person here. This is like and then a sphinx up here. And I feel like I've often seen the wheel with 3 figures on it. Maybe I'm making that up, but I feel like I've seen it with 3 on it before. There's a lot of jagged edges here, but again, there's this sort of curvilinear spiral, and then there's a big triangle behind it because it's fire energy. And there's a circle up here. Really interesting. Okay. So in here, the strength card is called Lust. Alright, so we have this feminine energy that's usually there is riding the lion, but the lion has this snake tail, but has like a lion-y kind of a head on it. And then you can see that this is like the top, like the jaw and the bottom jaw of the lion. But the lion's head itself is actually made up of different human and other animal faces. There's like a fish here, some weird beast here, there's a dude here, and a dude here, and a person here, and possibly a woman back here, but it's hard to tell. There's some hands here. There looks like there's a dead body underneath here, which I haven't noticed before. And then this part here looks like, to me, like lava coming down, like they're underground, and some kind of explosion or connection to the sun rays. It's really weird. And again, it's called Lust and not Strength. So when you're using this deck, it might have a particular meaning. And these all look like snake's tails up here. So this is... I mean, you're getting this Leo energy. Leo's ruled by the sun, so you're getting this yellow sun energy, but this is kind of... Again, it's just really weird. So the Hanged Man... Neptune energy. An egg. A snake down here. This guy is actually nailed. He's got a nail through his foot. So I don't know if he's nailed to the wall itself. Or he's like nailed to these spheres that are floating. Alright, I had to stop for a few hours, so I'm back and I painted my fingernails in the interim. And it's also darker out now, but I was talking about this Hangman card. I always, like, it kind of looks like these circles here are spheres and they're floating in midair and he's suspended from this ankh here. But this background always reminds me, it kind of reminds me of like the inside of a dojo more than anything else. I mean, it sort of looks like maybe bathroom tile too, but it's a little bit unusual. Does he have? Oh, I guess he sort of has junk, but it's not drawn very well. But notice there's a distinct triangle coming in here in the chest. So this Hangman, I actually don't really like this card in this deck that much. It's a little bit odd, but we have the number 4 here with the legs like we usually do. So 13 is death. We have scorpionic energy. It's really vivid. I don't think I usually get this card in this deck. This is a really active death. Try to get that focused a little bit. There we go, that's better. This fractal stuff going on here. It's like a bird head. There's a catfish, or I was gonna say potentially a coelacanth down here too. Some souls. There's a scorpion, some flowers. That looks like a poppy. Like a poppy bulb where the seeds come out. A snake. I have not seen this card that much in this deck. I get the death card on a regular enough basis, but not when I'm using this deck. This is interesting. Death not on a horse, too. A lot of the times death is on a horse. I like that one. So temperance in this card is called art. Arts and crafts. So we have the lion and this eagle here. Mixing fire and water. Here the temperance angel looks particularly feminine, but it's also double-headed. Again, this mixing of the fire and water. What does it say on the side here? Visita Interiora Terrae Rectif. I think that's one word. Rectificando. Oh, man, that font is really hard to read. Hang on, I gotta hold it up to my face. I can't read that. It looks like it's a... Oh. Invernis Occultum... Maybe Lapidum or Lahidum. Lahidum. Not really sure. I could read... I mean... I never took Latin because I didn't have space in my schedule in high school, but this font is incredibly hard to read. And I'm not sure what it means. I'd have to look it up. I'd have to Google Translate it. So just try to zoom in on that a little bit so you can read it. Invernis. I might have to do something with water. That might be Lapida, but it's a really weird looking P if it is. So, art. Temperance in a regular deck. I almost knocked the camera over too. Okay. So again, temperance called art here. Sagittarian energy. Slightly out of focus. Trying to get the whole card to focus at once. This devil card is kind of interesting. These look like cells to me that are undergoing meiosis and mitosis. There's like little people in there that makes me think of them like as the genetic material is like all these little people, like little cells and bulbs. I like this cobwebby stuff here. So we have a literal goat with a third eye and this winged double serpent staff here, winged disc. So we're opening up the brain. This always really strikes me though with this cell division stuff down here. So it looks like Devil's Tower a little bit, like in Close Encounters. The lenticular cloud. I don't know. I dig it. I like it. And here's the tower. This reminds me of Guernica by Pablo Picasso. Although Guernica was only black and white, though, and this is orange. So, Mars energy, fire. We've got this cubist style here. I actually really like this card. I don't get this that often in this deck. This all-seeing eye. Got a bird here and a dragon. The ring of fire around it. There's people falling out of the tower, but they're very cubic, geometric kind of stuff going on here. I like it. So the tower. And then the star. I would say a lot of these are, a fair amount of these have sort of cubist tendencies. The crystals. In the water that's coming out of here, there's a wave pattern, but it's angular. And then this planet here, which should be Uranus, because the star is ruled by Aquarius. I don't know if they knew about the planet Uranus when Crowley was alive. I'm not sure on the dates there, but we still have this, the female figure's knees are bent, which is typical. She's not exactly in that swastika position that she usually is in, where her arms are bent radially around her. I don't get this card that much in this deck either. This is kind of nice, though. I like the soft, like mauve and blue-violet colors. So just, again, with this juxtaposition of round and angular, and this is a 7-pointed star up here with a spiral on it. Okay, so the moon. The moon usually does have 2 pillars on it. This one, there's a lot of resonance trying different waveforms. Here they're sort of matched up, aligned in the center, and then they're out of phase again when you go off to the side. But we have 2 Anubis here, double Anubis, which is, you know, a lot of the time there's 2 dogs here. There's what I'm thinking is trying to be a scarab beetle here, but looks a little bit more like a stink bug. There's some writing in here. I think this actually looks like that. It reminds me of the abracadabra thing where it's reduced each line, but I'm not sure what those characters say because I can't read it. But see, again, this card ruled by Pisces when it should be ruled by the moon. It's that thing with the High Priestess. Here it's giving me this darkness, like the moon with the secrets and stuff. Right? It's sort of like reading between the lines. So I really like this card. It really gets it in there with the waveforms. Because the moon energy isn't just about emotions, it's about the tides, which is a waveform, the cosmic downloads. So we have the sun, the sunny sun. And there's a crab there. Oh, I see. It's got the whole zodiac around the edge. So Cancer, Gemini, Taurus. Aries, Pisces, Aquarius. Capricorn, properly with a fishtail. Really, as someone with a Capricorn stellium, it irritates the ever-loving crap out of me when people draw Capricorn when it's just the goat. I didn't mind it on the Devil card, though. In this case, it's okay. But typically, it needs a fishtail. So you have Sagittarius, and Scorpio, and Libra, and, oh, Virgo, the naked chick. There. And then Leo is taking up a lot of room there. Okay. So we've got... Oh, there's like little figures in these coins with a cross. It's a mountain with a ring around it, like a headband. And these are actually... they look like Pooty, but they've got butterfly wings. And the sun is a spiral as well. We see a lot of spiral action on here. So, very radiant. There's sort of a hint at a rainbow here, but it's only red, yellow, and orange. And there's more of a rainbow around it. So that's interesting. Leo energy. Maybe that's why the lion's so honking big on that corner. Okay. Oh, the sun. Okay. So here Judgment is called the Eon. The Eon. So I don't know if this is supposed to be Horus or Ra, but it's a bird-headed god. Seated on the throne here. He's got his resonator staff, which is like a big tuning fork. And we have this, the goddess Nut here forming the sky, but she's also forming like an omega form. And this big thing is kind of like the inner child, right? It's the princeling with the prince's lock. And this stance that this kid is doing is like a spiritual protection from your guides or higher self kind of thing. And then, as you would normally see in a Judgment card, there's 3 bodies that have been buried. But here it looks like, it almost looks like one of those burial chambers where they've got like 3 rooms on the side. But the way it looks more like a plant, where like these are seed pods that are gonna grow up through the ground and come out. So this Judgment card called the Eon here is really kind of interesting and gives a whole other connotation to what's going on here. It's like a portal into a new dimension. So we have fire energy, but it's actually ruled by Pluto, which is scorpionic energy. And the world here is called the universe, so they're going galactic. So we have this like interdimensional stargate here. There's stars, there's networks, there's a Calabi-Yau manifold in the background. We've got the 4 corners of the zodiac here. Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. A lot of the time the world has a nude woman on it, so we do see a feminine here. And instead of like a ribbon around her, she's got a snake. The sort of shedding of the skin, perhaps. There's a cosmic eye. There's a sickle or a moon there. There's all kinds of stuff going on in this card. There's like a square over here around her head. And there's a temple back here too, which I haven't really noticed. So the universe, leveling up a little bit here. Alright, so we're gonna do wands here. Notice, we start off with this Ace of Wands. It's, there's a lot of fire action going on here. Sort of thunderbolt situation. Just very much those like burning colors that really illustrate what it's trying to do. Now on these cards, it says wands in gray behind the black writing, and it'll say wands on all of these. And here it says number 1 up at the top. Whereas the trumps, the major arcana, are all numbered with Roman numerals except for the Fool, which has a 0 on it, which the Romans did not have. But the Mayans did have 0, so bully for them. They were in there, they were doing their math. correctly. All right, so the Ace of Wands, a little bit of mint green, mostly red and yellow, or orange and yellow. The Ace of Wands. Okay. So here, the Two of Wands, got Mars and Aries. These remind me of the Purba in the movie The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. These little daggery spear things. So they're meeting in the middle and they're creating these other energy things here. But it's called Dominion, which to me gives it a little bit of a different connotation because usually it's some kind of a choice, but it's a Dominion here. Okay, so the Three of Wands, the Sun in Aries. We see this similar flowering out of energies as they meet in the middle. These are like lotuses or tulips or whatever. But it's usually like my ships are coming in kind of energy here. It's called Virtue. And a little bit other color here. So this Four of Wands here looks like it really wants to be an 8. But we see when we cross 4 wands, it ends up becoming this kind of ring of fire. And it looks like it wants to be the 4 different symbols of the zodiac, but it's only birds and goat heads or ram's heads. So I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to do. But it's called completion, and it's only a 4 of wands. There's usually like 4 corners that hold up like the 4 posts of a building. But here, I mean, if you think about it, on the wheel, they usually have the 4 corners of the zodiac. So maybe this idea of 4 gives something like complete direction so that you can move in any certain way. But this green here is interesting as well. It's like it creates a border, like a territory. So 5 here, 5 of wands. 1 wand is really big. This whole snake and rod and sun disk and wings situation again. This looks like that tuning fork that the guy was holding in the Eon card, and then we have these lotus things again. So we're getting like a diversification. But it's called strife, which is what you'd normally expect from a 5 of wands. Conflict, strife. 6 of wands. Again, the same pattern, the winged serpents and the sun disk, and then the sort of weird animal head, and then the lotus. So we're getting this pattern going here. Jupiter in Leo. So 6 of wands is usually the victory card. Here it's called victory as well. And then 7, you could see this similar pattern of like crossing and then one coming up the middle. But this 7 of wands, we're like, no, like we're like literally on fire here. So we got Mars in Leo. This is called Valor in this deck. Now it's a lot of the time it's being defensive or standing up for what you believe in, right? And you can see where Valor would come into that. So here, the 8 of wands is, this card really stands out to me. It's called swiftness, right? Rapid movement or communication. What is that? It's swiftness. So we have Mercury in Sagittarius here. And we see that the 8 is forming this octahedron. And we see that it's trying to go in 2 different directions at once, but it's creating this like energy. It's almost holographic. You can see it like flipping around in space. And rainbow. I don't know if there's usually a rainbow on it anyway, but it's swiftness. But there's this idea of there being a lot of energy involved, and an air element as well, literally. So 9 is strength. I like how once it goes into Sagittarius energy, they start looking like arrows. Is that the moon? What's that? Yeah, it is the moon. So this, which is weird because the strength major arcana was called lust in this, but here it's called strength. So it's leaning more on the idea of having the fortitude to like stay on your task for a long time, right? It takes strength, which might not always be physical. It might be emotional or mental. Notice how dark this is, though. This is one of my half moon cards, too, so I'm gonna just find it interesting. I find it interesting that it's dark. We see the sun here, too. It's like a sun and moon thing that's being flipped around. So take that as it will, but it's slightly different than the guy like waiting around for somebody to come and relieve him. So here the 10 of Wands, usually some kind of burden or struggle, is called oppression, which I think works really well. Now what this looks like for me is like 2 handles on a big fancy door, and all these skis are just like jammed in there to keep it from being opened. Like a blockage, like you have to stay here and wait out your prison sentence or something. There we go. All right, so Saturn in Sagittarius here. So in this deck, the pages are called Princess. The knights are called Prince, and they're all riding chariots. And the queen is still called the queen, but the kings in this deck are called knights, which can make it kind of confusing, right? The kings in this deck are all on some kind of vehicle or horse or something, and they're out in like doing field work, right? They're not just sitting home pretty on the throne, they're out there doing stuff, right? When the king goes to battle. So he's called a knight here, but he's not supposed to be confused with the prince, right? The prince is coming out to meet him, perhaps. So that could be confusing. So we have the Princess of Wands, and we have this kind of fire road here. And she's got a tiger who looks like it's melting. It reminds me of that, there's this old story that's racist by today's standards, of this character, of this little boy who's like getting chased around the tree by a tiger, and you know, he runs so fast that the tiger turns into butter. And this is kind of what this always reminds me of. And I don't know how old, like, I don't know what the borderline is between people who are old enough to have read that story before finding out that your nursery storybook was telling you racist stories. And I'm not sure, well, I'm not necessarily sure what's racist about that, besides that the character was called Little Black Sambo. But maybe it has to do with, like, blood sport and, like, manual labor. But either way, the story is not PC, but this always reminds me of that. So sort of something that's in my brain that I can't really get out of there. And there's this like huge fire situation here. She looks like a little bit like a fire nymph, and she's got this weird hat on that reminds me, it's like the part of a crown of Egypt that doesn't have I think it's Osiris's crown actually, that has these 2 big curly whirlies, but it also is sort of like a plasma shape. So the Princess of Wands. Alright, so this prince here, the Prince of Wands, where the knight would normally be. Although in some decks the knight is called a prince anyway, and then the king is still usually the king. He's naked, but he's in like full drag headdress here. And his chariot is like on fire, but is being carried by a lion. So you can glean what you can out of this imagery. But again, all of these princes are in some kind of chariot related to their element. And the Queen of Wands. So she has this cat, which is, I think, supposed to be a cheetah, but it has pointy ears. So it looks kind of like... It looks like a serval with chicken pox right now. So here she is on her fiery throne. She's got a pine cone up here. She's got the wing disc. It's a perspective view, so her head is small. You're looking up at her from below. I don't really have much to say. Queen of Wands is as Queen of Wands do. Usually she has a black cat, but here she has a bigger cat. Okay, so here's the king, right? He's called a knight because he's out doing stuff. And he is, like, he is on fire. He's wearing the fire as a cape. He's holding that giant ace of wands, and his horse is fiery too. So he's pretty, he's kind of like the death card in that he's, like, super active. Right? There's no denying that this guy has a lot of energy. And he can handle the fire. He is in the kitchen. He can handle the heat. Alright, so here we have the Ace of Cups. This sort of clamshell web situation here. It looks sort of like goopy. Like, I was going to say like ectoplasm, like plasma. But it's again this idea of like resonance in waveforms coming up out of the water. Like the water isn't just like literally water drops. It's anything that's flowing in waves. This flower going on here. Okay, so Ace of Cups. So Two of Cups is called love, which makes sense because the Two of Cups is usually the lower vibration of the lovers. So Venus in Cancer, got this lotus here. We got a couple of fishies, little matched set here. And we have this love water flowing into the cups. So kind of what you'd expect. And there's no people in it, but I mean the fish are representative of the pair. It's like a garden fountain. So the Three of Cups is called abundance in this deck. So instead of this like party all the time, we just see like a fancier fountain. Right? There's a lot of fun to go around. Mercury in Cancer. So the Four of Cups is called luxury. Usually this is an apathy card, but it could be, you know, it could deal with the concept that money can't buy happiness necessarily. But it can be open to interpretation. So we have these golden cups here, and it's with fountains getting even fancier. And we have, oh yeah, it's the moon card, the moon in Cancer. So in this deck, this normally apathy, or I don't like it, is called luxury. Or it's like, you know, I got a $200,000 Lamborghini. Well, yeah, it's nice, but I don't like it. I wanted a red one. And this is lime green. Like, get it out of here. Yeah, like living in the lap of luxury, perhaps it creates that apathy, but not necessarily. Just one of the downfalls, because the cards can have many meanings depending on the rest of the reading and which direction the card is going in. Ooh, you know what? Those kind of look like lanterns, don't they? Like a hurricane lamp. So the Five of Cups here is called disappointment, which is essentially how that card usually feels. So we have these two cups in the background, and we have these other three that are kind of more in the foreground. We have this pentagonal energy here. Lily pads. Slightly different configuration. Usually it's 3 overturned cups and 2 that are upright, but you can still see there's a distinction between the 2 and the 3 here. Disappointment. And also that there's 2 lily pads that come up out of there. So Mars in Scorpio. Six of Cups, the Sun in Scorpio. So here it's called pleasure. Usually it's sort of this like fun times reminiscing about the past kind of energy. again, cups looking a little bit like lamps. Little gift type situation. Pleasure. This card, I actually kind of like the way that they've done this Seven of Cups. It's called Debauch here. Usually, and it looks like sewage, right? Usually people call it the options card. I usually call it distractions. This is like, I partied too hard and now everything sucks. Like, I just puked on my new $400 shoes and they can't get cleaned. And now my friends hate me. And I was dancing on a table naked and all that stuff. So this is... this version of the Seven of Cups is very useful a lot of the time. Okay, so Eight of Cups is usually like wanting to walk away from stuff that doesn't serve. We have Saturn in Pisces. So it's called indolence here, and I've heard that word before, and I don't use it very often. So I did look it up, and before I cut the card, you can see that I wrote slacker, because that's essentially what it means. Someone who's indolent is like lazy, basically. Right? It's like you didn't want to do the work to get... It's like you didn't want to do the emotional work, and this is where you had to come through, and now that the sewage has drained out, the landscape is looking a little bleak, and you've got even more cups to deal with. Right? Like, this stuff does not taste that great. It's kind of like in the Matrix, when they wake up from their little pod, this is what the whole thing looks like. Like, these are all people attached in still. Okay. So Nine of Cups, happiness. We're back to these sort of flowing lantern situation. Jupiter and Pisces right there on the card. Happiness. Okay, so the Ten of Cups here is called satiety. Like when you're thirsty and you have water, that's satiation. So satiety, it's like a fulfillment. These kind of look like little ram's heads. I don't know if they're supposed to. Oh, maybe they are supposed to, because this is traditionally Mars in Pisces. So, Ten of Cups. Arranged roughly in this Sephiroth shape. I'm digging my elbows into the table. Okay, so the Princess of Cups. Alright, where the page would be. Looking a little bit like a water nymph. She's got a swan on her head. There's a fish here. She's got a clamshell and a turtle. And these weird truncated triangular crystal situations here. And her dress is coming in looking like a kind of like a shell. Princess of Cups. The water lily. This could be like an underground current too, like the jet stream. Could even be. So the Prince of Cups here, his chariot is being drawn by this duck or whatever the hell that's supposed to be. He's got a snake in his cup. And he's got one of those water lilies. And he's got all this, like a wake behind him in the water. So the Queen of Cups. She doesn't really... Oh, I guess she has a little bit of a face back here, but she's got this... it's like really interesting waveform around her. Both in the air, right? Because the water can be any waveform, and then like in the water itself. And there's also this idea of reflection. So the Queen of Cups with some kind of a ibis or stork or something there. I don't know what kind of heron. I don't know what kind of bird that's supposed to be. And then the Knight of Cups, this is where the king is, right? So he's on a horse. He's got these scalloped wings. There's a peacock down here, which I haven't noticed before. And he's got a cup with a big crab in it. And his hair is textured. I haven't noticed that before. I haven't gotten this guy that much when I'm using this deck. But he's got armor on that's sort of crab-like, and then his hair looks like scales a little bit. Oh, I guess his horse does have a tail. It's just got a chunky butt. Okay, so then we have swords. It's the Ace of Swords with a sort of a crown on it, like it often does. This looks like some kind of like William Blake situation going on back here. There's like a lot of different crystal levels, but it looks like choirs of angels or something. Like different levels of in the atmosphere or in the heavens or whatever. Ace of Swords, big honking sword. With some kind of runic or Greek. Yeah, I guess it's Greek. Does it go? Oh, it goes this way. Okay. So with a Greek inscription on it. I think that's Theta Epsilon Lambda and then Nu maybe? And I'm not sure what the other one is, and then Alpha. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what those are, but I can't read Greek, so. I took French and I took Sanskrit and everything else. I don't know. Okay. Back to Ace of Swords. Okay. So Two of Swords is called Peace, which makes sense because if you're going to start thinking from start understanding from someone else's perspective, that is the key to peace. So we have these sort of windmill situations going on here. The moon in Libra. I like it. So Three of Swords is called Sorrow, which makes sense. I like this kind of meeting in the middle. These curved ones. And notice how this again, this cubist emotional impression. Really interesting. I like this one a lot. I like it a lot. So we have traditionally, Saturn in Libra. Three of Swords. The Four of Swords here is called Truce. So a lot of the time this is like the recharging, but it's also often shown as like a knight or a statue of a knight laying on his grave, and it's meant to be after battle. But what happens if you survive a battle and you didn't get killed is usually there's been some kind of a truce. So we can see very clearly how it goes from, if you have two peace and two peace, you end up with this truce where we have the Four Swords meeting in the middle equivalently. And this is sort of energetic expressions in the background. I do see where it's like, it almost looks like octahedron forming, and it makes me think of the air element, which would be Libra. So we have Jupiter in Libra. Here the Five of Swords is called Defeat, which I think is appropriate. I love this curved pentagram on this card. I know this sort of jaggedy energy here. This is Venus in Aquarius here. So it's a lot of the time it's the mind games, or it's like the last man standing on a battlefield kind of a thing. Like I gotta get the last word in edgewise. But here it's defeat. It's very much goes into that idea of, is like I'm so boxed in on every side. That kind of energy from that card. So here the Six of Swords is called Science. And notice how I said at the beginning that this is broken up so that it looks like a flattened out cube. Here we see this cross again, and it's more clearly broken down bits of a cube. And then we see this square here, right? And we have a circle that's squared. So this science here is relating in particular to geometry, but this idea that it's sort of like all scientific understanding comes from the basic understanding of what shape the universe is, like what it's made from. And we see that here. Because in order to get the cube and the circle, in like the square, the circle, you have to have like an innate understanding of like math and resonance and harmony in the universe, and all other sciences come out of that. You can see it in biology and chemistry, astrophysics and stuff like that. So it's very appropriate to say science and then have this imagery on here. How that relates to the Six of Swords, which is usually a guy rowing across a thing in a boat, is a little bit weird, but if I say usually that means sailing away from the bullshit for me, well, how do you fix garbage experience, garbage information? The sort of empirical idea of science could say, you know, logic versus BS, basically. But we do have hexagonal symmetry going on in here. Science. Mercury in Aquarius. So then we have the moon. Traditionally the moon in Aquarius here. Seven of Swords. So this is called futility. It's usually the sneaky card, the ninja kind of card. We see these forms again too. This is sort of like a square spiral going on here. Yeah, the moon in Aquarius. It's like all of these 6 swords are not truths. This is the one that's the truth, and they're trying to break it. There's break marks on here. It's sort of like this is almost like resistance is futile, right? It's like a moment of perhaps giving up. But notice how usually in the Seven of Swords, the person who's like stealing the swords or whatever object instead of swords is always like dropping a couple of them. You know, there's like this idea that there's a futility in trying to take everything. But I don't get this card that often when I use this deck, but it does give a slightly different approach to it. So it's called futility. This one I do get quite a bit when I use this deck. So 8 of Swords is called interference. And we can see that here because it looks a lot like 2 swords, 2 handles, like that 10 of Wands. Like the handles are on the doors and you can't open the doors because all these other things are jammed into the handles. But interference, right? We have these 2 energies that are aligned with each other going in the same direction. We have all these thoughts and things that have been said, jamming it, going every which way, cutting into it, and interrupting the flow of this thought pattern here, this perception. These ones are still in front of them, but I do see there's like scuff marks on them. So this card comes up for me quite a bit. We have Jupiter in Gemini. I appreciate the symbolism of being trapped in your own prison here. Usually it's the girl with the toilet paper mummy situation. So 9 of Swords is called cruelty. It's usually the nightmare card. I think there's like dripping sickness coming from that. This is one of my half moon cards. It's again usually the nightmare, but here it's called cruelty. And this almost is sort of like, it's not even your subconscious, it's people like intentionally being cruel to you, perhaps, in what they say to you or how they try to make you think. And I think this idea of cruelty in and of itself is unique and something that'll be handy when using this deck. It's an alternative to other tarot interpretations. Ten of Swords is called Ruin. I've got a broken sword here. I don't get this in this deck that much either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the broken one is 10. There's a heart behind here too. Ruin. So Ten of Swords is like stick a fork in me, I'm done, overkill. You can see that the sword that's over the heart is the one that's on the chopping block here. I don't have much else to say. I mean, I don't really get that card that much, but I mean, Ten of Swords is Ten of Swords, and calling it Ruin makes a lot of sense. You know, it's like, I can't go on. I'm like, I can't take it anymore. So Princess of Swords. These almost look like fairy wings, but they're not, like, really. You can tell that she's, like, up in the air. There's, like, a perspective of sort of looking down. But this princess looks sort of defensive. But she could just be, you know, playing around in her little air garden or whatever. This looks like someone was trying to make a seed of life and just could not figure out how to put the circles. It's kind of weird. This is interesting shapes. Okay. Prince of Swords. Okay. This is really chopped up. So his chariot is being drawn by these like 3 little dudes here. That look like miniature versions of himself. This huge octahedron here. It's air. Symbol of air. And his chariot here. I don't get him very much either. That's so weird. The prince. Okay. Queen of Swords. I have had her quite a bit. She's got a severed head here. She's got her tits out. She's wearing like a silver mesh top. There we go. Looks like a weird face in here. It's like Krang. I don't think it's supposed to be though. And there's some weird angel head here. Slightly different imagery. It's giving me Judith and Holofernes here. Slightly different imagery from the Queen of Swords, but again, also slightly not different. She's clearly on a cloud throne. She's got her sword. She's making judgments, that kind of thing. So we have the Knight of Swords. This is the king in this deck. So he's got a horse and he's got dragonfly wings, kind of. At least that's what they look like to me. He's like in a charged attack dive. He's extremely active. You can tell he's in the air. I like him with his little helicopter wings. So the Ace of Discs. This looks like a cosmic nut that's been pulled open. Pentagonal symmetry. Or is it pentagonal? That might be a heptagonal. Yeah, it's a heptagon. So there's a heptagonal situation going on here. There's 3 circles jammed together. That's that beginning of the seed of life. And then we have this quarter folding here. So this idea of 7 and 4 together. Sort of peacocky pine cone kind of stuff going on here. What does it say? Meta? Maybe Opion? Or, oh, it's probably Theta. I don't know how the H is supposed to be pronounced. But it says Meta. I think that's supposed to be a T. It's in Greek. Theta, H, and then Peon. So, however that's supposed to be read. I know my battery's getting low. Oh, I'm going to keep going till it craps out. So the Ace of Discs. So here pentacles are called discs. Sometimes they're called coins. So the Two of Discs is called Change. For me, it's often like a choice card, or like these or these or these. To have it called Change makes sense because it's like I'm either flipping between this and this. I like how they have this infinity symbol here. This Ouroboros snake twisted into an infinity. And the way I see it, an infinity symbol sometimes is like a sphere that's been opened up and still joined on one side. So I'm looking inside a tennis ball and then the other half of the tennis ball. So I've got these two yin yangs, and I've got to, you know, it's like I have to make change. I don't know, like I'm trying to figure out which is the thing I still need. Right, so it's like a little bit more active, because the Two of Pentacles could just be like stalling out, but here it's like you actually have to do something in this card. Just like energy fields. So you have Jupiter and Capricorn here. Three of Discs. This is exciting. They look like little wheels. This is like a hover pyramid in the water. Isn't that cool? I love that. Three of Discs. So it's called Works. And that makes sense, because usually it's like the apprentice in the cathedral building it. So here it's like what I'm creating something. I'm building a machine that works. I've decided what to do, and now I'm putting it into action. I'm creating works of some sort. And it looks like this thing is in motion. This card I do get on a semi-regular basis. So the Four of Pentacles here is called Power. And the Four of Pentacles is usually like I need to learn what to hold on to and what to let go of. But here, this is like a power plant set up in a moat, like on top of a pyramid, or in like the interior of a pyramid with the lid cut off. So we have power. We have these four elements here setting up the corners, and it's so electric, but it's like it does go into this idea of like knowing what you need for the system and not like adding stuff or taking away things. So power. But it's like, is all this stuff giving you power if you hold on to it, or do you have more power if you let go of things? So that's something to consider. But this is a very different interpretation of the Four of Pentacles. So this Four of Discs is called Power, and it looks like a little electrical plant, and I love it. Five of Pentacles here is called Worry. It's usually the like I feel left out. Mercury in Taurus. It's very geometric. So this is called Worry. Five of Pentacles, it's like help me, I'm poor, right? I'm stressed out. Six of Pentacles, here it's called Success. This looks like something that's like growing exponentially. It's usually this hand giving to poor hands. But here it's coming in like success, like material. I'm balanced materially. I'm being able to expand outward. Which is similar. I just try to get this expanding rose situation in the middle here. It also looks like a chain linked thing all spiraled up. Some planetary symbols here. Although the card overall, the moon in Taurus. Just trying to get that back in focus. Okay, here it's called Success. The Seven of Pentacles, which is usually waiting for that harvest to be ready, is called Failure. It's looking really similar to the Seven of Cups with that debauch. So here Seven is looking a little bit more sinister than it might. I just have like helmeted dudes in there. Seven. Saturn and Taurus. So take that how you might. It does feed a little bit for me into the impatience element that could come with the Seven of Pentacles. So here the Seven of Discs is called failure, and you can interpret that how you might. It looks like everything is dead here. Just gonna change the battery and stuff. Okay, so this is the Eight of Discs here. It's called Prudence, and it's the Sun in Virgo. Yeah, Sun in Virgo. So this is usually like doing work. Getting down to brass tacks, burning the midnight oil kind of a card. And I don't use the word prudent or prudence very often. So it's like I'm struggling to figure out what it means. But it's sort of like being savvy, like business savvy, just sort of, you know, carefully like planning and executing, like not being wasteful, that kind of stuff. I mean, think of like a huge financial institution is called prudential. But usually when I see this card and it's called Prudence, it makes me think of the Beatles song, right? Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, greet the brand new day. The sun is out, the sky is blue, it's beautiful, and so are you, dear Prudence. So, it looks like fields that have been, you know, tilled and stuff, and we have this plant here that's growing nicely and evenly. So there's still this idea of work, but here it does give me a little bit of like work smarter, not harder kind of energy. Because this thing is coming in naturally, but it's all in order. There's little pentacles right in the flower center. Pentagonal spirals. Okay, so 8. Certainly not a word that's used often in American day-to-day English. I don't know if you speak English and you're living in another country, if prudence comes into your language very much, but not that much in American English. But there's still an idea of, sort of a general idea of what it means. I was like, I don't need to look it up as badly as I did indolent. Okay, so 9 of Pentacles here is called Gain. It's usually like all the single ladies card, but it's sort of like I'm making ends meet, I'm doing fine, I've got it, I'm by myself. So gain is like, it's like I'm almost done. I've got the stuff. I'm doing like let me see this beginning of the Seed of Life here. Venus in Virgo. This is Mercury in Virgo. So the 10 of Pentacles here is called Wealth, and this time the discs are literally coins. Sometimes some decks, they call it coins instead of pentacles. So we have some planetary symbols, some other weird symbols, a couple of polygonal situations, some Hebrew again. So Mercury in Virgo. And of course some coins that aren't highlighted as well. This is set up in a Sephiroth shape. I mean, 10 of Pentacles is material contentment, essentially wealth. So they've named it the right thing. You know, it's very easy to tell what's going on here. It's not otherwise really exciting unless you know more about these symbols than I do. I'm still not sure what's going on in that. Oh, okay. It's a number sequence. It looks like it says 889, 280, and then 2080. So it's probably some kind of Kabbalistic number pyramid. Well, so then we have Princess of Discs. Not specifically Capricornian energy, but looking very much like it with this. So she looks like she's wearing fur for the winter. We've got an octahedron here. We've got a yin-yang with these flower rings around it. This sort of branches looking like rays coming out of her. She's cool. I like her. Princess of Discs. So you have the Prince of Discs, and his chariot is a bull. He's got this atomic model sphere situation here. He's got stuff. So this is the Prince. I thought I was going to have a really bad coughing fit for a second. So here's the Queen of Discs. So there's a goat here. And she's got a sphere with a bunch of other spheres on it. It's like they were mapping out the material space in the universe. That's kind of what it looks like. Essentially a soccer ball. But we're dealing with the spherical version of the flower of life here is essentially what she's holding. Queen of Discs has these kick-ass horns. Got some greenery here. She looks like she's up on a mountain. Oh yeah, because she's overlooking this field. And even these look like these palm trees or whatever look like they're trying to be writing. So this is cool. And she has what looks like an icosahedron inside a cube, but it's hard to tell. And the king here, the Knight of Discs, he's still on his horse, but he's taken a minute to look around while his horse is thinking about a snack. Right, so he's more grounded. There's like energy coming off of his shield. So the King of Discs here. He's out and about. He's taking stock of the land here a little bit. So that's the tarot, but this deck does have this other card. So we have a pentagonal symmetry with this flower here. And this shape, it kind of goes into this like 369 thing that has to do with Tesla for me. But if I were to make a line here, you see that there's a triangle. And if I were to make a line here, you see that there's another triangle. And if I say that this line is going back into space, then I have a tetrahedron pointing up. These lines going back into another dimension. Now I have two interlocking tetrahedrons. And this is like the basis of Metatron's cube. It's the angular structure inside of the spheres that make up the seed of life and then the flower of life and so on. So even though this was sort of an extra card, I like to keep it in with the deck, and when it pops out, you know, when I shuffle it out and I get it and I read it, I'm like, okay, this has to do with, you know, the shape of the universe, the expansion of the way energy and matter moves. It's two tetrahedrons, it's masculine and feminine, or there's something to do with Tesla and energy and stuff like that. So you can get a bunch of different information. I also have this rainbow here, the chakras and all that. So there can be a lot of information in this card that isn't really necessarily supposed to be there. It's like a 79th bonus card that I like to use with my deck. So because I chopped this down, it's a little bit easier to shuffle, because now, even though it's still kind of a stretch, I can get my hand all the way around it. And with those extra like 8mm from that border on either side, it's a little harder to hold on to. So these they're not massively thick, but they're decently thick. And they're fairly stiff. They're not real floppy. They're definitely paper. Got a nice heft to it. So, because my hands are big enough now that I've cut these down, oops, so I can go ahead and just like so. And if I don't want them to get stuck in that same direction, I just shuffle them upside down. And if your hands are smaller or you just feel like it, these ones also work pretty good going sideways. Oh man, these are still smelly. So they're depending on how big your hands are and if you trim them or not, they could be slightly difficult to handle, but they're not really that hard to shuffle, especially once they're broken in. We could even do like a little corner shuffle them. So they work pretty well. I enjoy them. They play well with other decks. And I would say if you're in a situation like me where you're sort of off put by Aleister Crowley and you're like, ew, I don't want his toxic energy like getting on me. I used to be like that too. And then there's something, I was like, I saw somebody using this deck and the images were so appealing to me. And the fact that it's a slightly different system of tarot, it was enough for me to be like, you know what, he's dead, he's not gonna hurt me, like, I'm not gonna be cursed by his energy, you know, I can transmute it, like, I don't want his name and what he was about to make me afraid of expressing information, right? It's like, why am I putting this chain around my throat chakra if there's information in these cards that's if you know, if this is the what's it called in the library? We have the cards in the drawer. Like if I want to find a certain book in the library in the Akashic record and I'm using the card catalog, then you know, maybe one of these cards will give me the book in the Akashic record that I need to tell people some information. So hopefully that makes more sense, right? It was like, ooh, what's this? And 221.46 GHE, and I'm like, oh, let me go walk down to that stack and I'll pull out the Akashic record, and now I'm like, ooh. Where before I might not have gotten that information if I hadn't gotten this deck. So, I mean, at that point, Crowley himself becomes inconsequential, and now I don't have to worry about his crap energy affecting me or my reading just because I have this deck. Because I actually like this deck. It's really powerful. It's interesting. There's symbolism there that isn't really found in other decks that is made it worthwhile for me to have it. And then when I cut it down, I mean, I think it changed the energy somewhat, but just in the way to like to shuffle it. I don't think I regret cutting it down. I sort of regret cutting down the Aquarian tarot that I have, but it's sort of like once you cut one of the cards, you're kind of committed to it. This one, I do like it in the form that I have it in now. So I would say that for me it was worth having. And again, some of these cards I haven't seen them since I like read through the booklet when I first got them, and other ones I get on a fairly regular basis, and other ones I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember getting that a couple times. But I mean, there's certain cards that I only seem to see in certain decks, so I don't know, I'm not sure what's up about that, but for me, it's worth having. And again, decent card stock, decent size, and so on. All right, so let me move this up here. Right. So if you want to get a personal reading, I have many available. The list is going to be down in the description box underneath the video. If you get a reading and you're like, hey, can you use the Thoth deck? I'll probably be like, yeah, okay. Because I don't mind getting requests for decks. A lot of the time I'll just go and look at my decks when I know I'm doing a reading for someone, once I know what spread I'm doing, and I'll pull the decks based on what my intuition is, basically the same as I do for the other readings that I put up on YouTube for everybody to see. So you can request this deck if you want it for your reading, or you could just watch all my videos and see me using it if you really want to. Yeah, so I have those tarot readings available. I have a couple other things that I do on my YouTube. There's a video that I put out, I think it's in the Info Hub playlist, that is not that old from when I'm posting. It's like recent to me recording this. I changed my video schedule, so I made a little video about that. So you'll see when they're coming out. I've got merch and prints and some coloring books. I've got plushies and drawings and paintings and stuff. Prints, t-shirts and blankets and towels and little bags. Coupon code for Etsy, 17% off 3 or more items. Some of those items are not that expensive, like under 20 bucks. I've got chapbook packs, which is like a synchronicity stimulus packet. Those are going to be on Etsy. I've got a couple of templates. I've got charms that you can print out to do readings with. I use them, and I made them available to other people. So you just got to download them and print them out on your favorite paper or cardstock. Okay, glue them onto like little wooden chips or something. I think that's it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, check out my playlists tab, my discussion tab, and stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye.